You are about to witness the moment a smug billionaire's world turned to dust. He thought it was funny to publicly shave a waitress's head over a spilled glass of wine. He thought she was nobody. He was wrong, because the moment her humiliated husband walked through those doors, the entire city learned a terrifying lesson. Never touch what belongs to the ghost of the underworld. Drop a comment and hit subscribe. The Vanguard Gala was less an event and more a display of New York's obscene wealth. Chandeliers wept diamonds, and the air was thick with the scent of money and indifference. In the middle of it all was Ava Rossi, 24, navigating the maze of marble and silk in her standard black uniform. Her smile was professional, but her feet were silently screaming. She wasn't here for the glamour. She was here for the tips. Every dollar earned tonight went directly to the mounting medical bills for her mother back in Italy. This shift was critical. Her eyes kept darting toward table 8, the epicenter of the room's noise and arrogance. Sitting at its head was Julian Vance, 30, a cryptotech wunderkind worth nearly $2 billion, famous for his hostile tweets and zero-tolerance policy for anything he deemed imperfect. He represented everything Ava wasn't: entitled, reckless, and untouched by struggle. Ava just needed to avoid table 8 until her shift ended. Just 30 more minutes, and she would have enough cash to cover the next payment. She kept her head down, balancing a tray of delicate port wine glasses, inching toward the safety of the kitchen. She was almost past the danger zone when the silence broke. Julian Vance let out a booming, artificial laugh that caused the waiter beside Ava to flinch. As the waiter jumped, his elbow struck the edge of Ava's tray, sending a cascade of dark, expensive port tumbling toward Julian's feet. The shattered glass sound was immediately followed by a deadly silence that swallowed the orchestra. A few droplets landed on the pristine white linen tablecloth and, catastrophically, on the suede tips of Julian Vance's bespoke Italian loafers. Julian stood up slowly, not looking at the wine, but directly at Ava. His friends, already tipsy, pulled out their phones, preparing to record the spectacle. Well, Julian drawled, his voice carrying clearly across the room. Look at the little maid. Did you do that on purpose, trying to sabotage my footwear? Ava's face burned. Sir, I am deeply sorry. It was an accident. The waiter tripped. I don't care about the waiter, Julian snapped, dismissing the terrified young man with a flick of his wrist. I care about my $3,000 shoes, which you have just doused in a vintage wine that costs more than your entire paycheck this year. What is your name, little girl? Ava, is it? You have two choices. Ava, you can pay for the shoes, or you can give us a performance that makes this inconvenience worth our time. Tears pricked her eyes. Sir, I can pay for the cleaning. I promise I will work 3 shifts to cover it. Julian tilted his head back and laughed, a cruel, cold sound. Cleaning? Oh, Ava, cleaning is for peasants. I think we need a better kind of payment. A memorable one. His friends chuckled, egging him on. Ava felt the dread rising. This was not about the shoes. It was about power. Julian walked around the table until he stood directly in front of her. The entire ballroom was now a silent, voyeuristic theater. His face, usually handsome, was twisted into a mask of petulance and privilege. You know what's funny? Julian asked the crowd, his voice conspiratorial. You women take your hair so seriously. It's your pride, isn't it? Well, Ava, you just attacked my pride. Fair trade, I think. He turned to his assistant. Get me the kitchen shears. Now. Ava gasped, stepping back. No, sir. Please don't. Julian's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist with brutal force. The physical pain was sharp, but the shame was debilitating. Sit still, little maid. You ruined the party. Now you're the entertainment. The shears were placed in his hand. They looked massive and ridiculous against the backdrop of a black tie gala. Julian grabbed a thick, dark braid of Ava's hair, the hair she'd spent hours perfecting, the hair she'd been growing since she was a teenager. He yanked her head back, exposing her throat, and pressed the cold metal of the shears against her skull. Don't! Ava sobbed, but the sound was strangled. She looked desperately at the hundreds of faces, but nobody moved. Nobody called security. They were all complicit, watching through the lenses of their phones. The first snip was deafening. Snip! A heavy chunk of hair, dark and glossy, fell to the marble floor. Snip! The second cut was jagged and vicious. Ava felt the air where her hair used to be. She felt the cold, raw humiliation. Her dignity was being stripped away, piece by piece, for a few drops of wine. Julian was laughing maniacally, performing for the cameras, hacking away unevenly until half of her head felt bald and ruined, a testament to his unchecked ego. She felt utterly broken. Julian finally released her, shoving her slightly. He held up the clump of hair like a trophy. There, now we're even. That's a story you can tell your grandkids, right? His friends erupted in drunken cheers. Ava stood trembling, her hand flying to the ragged destruction on her scalp. The sheer, silent weight of the crowd's gaze felt like a physical assault. Just as the humiliation reached its crushing peak, the 2 enormous, solid oak doors at the far end of the ballroom opened. The sound wasn't loud, but it cut through the room's suppressed laughter like like a thunderbolt. Every head snapped toward the entrance. A man walked in. He was impeccably dressed in a suit the color of midnight, tailored so precisely it looked like he was carved from stone. He didn't rush. He didn't look excited or angry. He simply walked, and the atmosphere in the room changed from arrogant glee to profound dread. He moved with the quiet, overwhelming authority of a general walking through a battlefield. His gaze swept the room, ignoring the gawking millionaires and the stunned staff, until his dark eyes locked onto Ava, her tears, the shaking hand covering her violated scalp, and Julian Vance holding the shears like a fool. The music was still silent. Not a single person breathed. Silas Moretti had arrived. Silas didn't speak a word. His footsteps echoed on the marble as he crossed the room in 3 fluid strides. He reached Ava, and his first action was immediate and protective. He removed his jacket, a piece of immaculate fabric, and gently draped it over her shoulders, covering her head and blocking the phone cameras that still dared to record. It was a gesture of ownership, of defiance. Then he turned to face Julian Vance. The temperature in the immediate vicinity seemed to drop 20 degrees. Julian, still riding his power high, attempted a sneer. "Hey pal, you lost? We're having a private moment here." This waitress learned a lesson. Silas looked at the sheared hair, then at Julian's smirking face. "She's not a waitress," Silas said, his voice a low, terrifying rumble that never needed to rise to command attention. "She's my wife." The declaration landed like a physical blow. Julian's face went white. He knew the name Moretti. Everyone in that city knew the name Moretti, not just as a business leader, but as the quiet, untouchable force that controlled the unseen levers of power. Silas continued, his voice softer, deadlier. "This gala, Julian? I own the land this hotel is built on. The company that provided your security tonight? They answer to me. The city council members you lobbied last week? They out." Julian stumbled back, the shears clattering to the floor. You're Silas Moretti," he stammered, the realization crashing down that he wasn't facing a rival CEO, but the architect of his potential destruction. Silas didn't give him time to beg. He pulled out his phone, making one call, his eyes never leaving Julian. "Marco," he said into the phone, "start the process. I want Julian Vance legally ruined by morning. Freeze his assets, issue the public liability lawsuits, and have the federal tax auditors at the door of Vance Technologies by noon. I want everything he owns, everything he values, dismantled. No mercy. And make sure the video of this entire incident leads every news broadcast." Silas ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket, turning his back on the now shaking Julian. He gently guided Ava toward the exit. Julian, still frozen, watched his entire future evaporate. Outside, in the sleek black car, Ava finally collapsed against her husband, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry, Luca," she whispered. "I ruined everything." Silas pulled her close, kissing the ruined patch of her hair. "Don't cry, amore," he said, his voice hard as steel. "He took hair. I'll take his legacy. By the time I'm finished, he will beg me to simply cut his life